Now, join me in welcoming Catherine Thomason of Shell to introduce our Special Distinction Award this year for Community Benefactor. Catherine.
Perfect. Thank you so much. John Walsh stole my thunder because I, too, was going to recognize Karen and Marcia and Sarah and the whole Churchill Club. So instead, I will say we're very pleased to be the innovation sponsor, and I encourage you all to think about ways you can partner with and support the Churchill Club, and I promise you won't be disappointed, but you can't have our innovation sponsorship. So thanks. I'm also honored to be here tonight to present the 2017 Community Benefactor Award. This discretionary distinction is for creating positive personal impact on a community in need. As a Houston resident, the harsh reality of Hurricane Harvey's devastating impact on Texas has been made all too real, not just through ongoing news coverage and social media posts, but by seeing firsthand the impacts on colleagues, friends, fellow Houstonians, from severe property damage to the uprooting of their families. It is relentless and emotionally exhausting to see and hear, and even more difficult to comprehend just how we are going to overcome a crisis of such magnitude. But the Gulf Coast will overcome and rebuild together. I'm personally very proud to work for a company that has stepped up, from feeding emergency responders and providing school supplies that allow students to return to class, to dedicating $1 million to the American Red Cross Hurricane Relief Fund. But I am most moved by the amount of Shell volunteer power that we are seeing in neighborhoods across the region and in local shelters. It is equally moving to see help and support from outside Houston in the state of Texas, people who are contributing their resources and their expertise to support the rescue and recovery efforts, people like this year's honoree. This year's Community Benefactor worked tirelessly to develop a real-time mapping application to assist with the coordination of rescue and relief efforts in Houston during Hurricane Harvey. This and a related rescue application resulted in over 28,000 uses of the map by victims in need or by rescue groups and volunteers. At last count, over 5,500 people were subsequently rescued. Jessica, we are honored to present you with the 2017 Community Benefactor Churchill Award. Thanks for stepping up. Please join me in welcoming Jessica Decker of Fulcrum Community, who will be joined on stage by Roy Ng, President and COO of Mapbox. Thank you.
All right. Jessica, so a little bit more than 3 weeks ago, you woke up in the morning and decided you wanted to build a rescue map. You went on Twitter and called for some volunteers. What inspired you to do that?
It was really an interesting thing, Roy. I have a background in data and science visualization and have some mapping skill and have been part of some community citizen science projects involving participatory mapping, things like this in the past. And I went on Twitter that morning, and the storm was supposed to hit later that day, and I thought, let's see who's working on this. I've got some time to spare. I can volunteer, and put some of my skills to that. And I just made a post on Twitter and, just said, who's working on this? Where can I help? And there was this resounding silence. And I realized, wow, nobody started on this yet. The storm is hitting today. And I heard back from, there's an app called Fulcrum, and Fulcrum is a data management field data collection tool. Fulcrum had just launched a program called Fulcrum Community, and what that is they will requisition a platform and an account for any humanitarian effort doing field mapping for disaster relief, damage assessment, things like that. And Fulcrum reached out and they said, we would love to give you a platform and the tools if you just want to take this and run with it. And so I did and began building our resource map.
How do you think technology, obviously coming from a company that provides technologies such as mapping solutions, how do you think new technologies have enabled you, individual kind of software developers, to actually create new and innovative solutions and just come up with things like a rescue map?
It was really amazing and inspiring to see how literally within an hour of putting the call out and just saying, I think this thing needs to exist. Who's working on it? Let's put together a team. The tools, the volunteers, the resources, everything became available within the hour. And that was extraordinary to see, and something that might not have been available even 5-10 years ago on the scale that it is now. And the scale up of that and the speed at which we were able to have a current and updated map that was shelters, medical aid locations, food distribution, things like that, to have those things live and updated and available to people to use who were in Houston and trying to make decisions about their evacuation and what was available to them and things like that. It was available extraordinarily fast, and none of that would have been possible without some of these tools that have been developed for this type of thing, and for individuals really in any sort of situation. Anybody in the public can use these, which is what's great about it.
And once the mapping solution was developed or up to speed, there's obviously that people dimension. Tell us a little bit about your experience with the volunteers that are now starting to be aware of the map and some of the things that you saw that was a success, or some impediments that you saw as you were continuing to build out the solution.
The volunteer aspect of it was really one of the most interesting parts, because I write code, I build tools, I'm a front-end developer, and sometimes you build these things and they work in a bubble or they work in a best case scenario. And when you launch these things into the public, or maybe somebody who just wants to help that has an hour, maybe somebody who just, is in their armchair or they're watching TV, a lot of times we would get people who'd say, wow, I can't send money, or I don't really have, but there are people who felt really helpless just watching these things on TV happen and watching the damage and wanting something that they could do, and to be able to give them a fairly clean onboarding and a set of instructions and say, just go to this address, send your email, you'll get instructions. And then they were able to just start dropping pins on this map and really helping and really contributing. And people just loved that, and people loved being a part of it, and people were very grateful to be a part of it. And the management and scaling up of those volunteers, we didn't have SOP, we didn't have protocol. This wasn't something that got worked on for like weeks ahead of time. It was within the afternoon. We were just starting to teach people how to use the tool and getting them comfortable with it. And the tools made that really extraordinarily easy because of the way that we built them.
Got it. And was there some sort of enablement involved in terms of getting the tools in the hands of all the volunteers? Did you have to teach them how to put those pins and other things onto the map?
We started a Slack channel, and we had a generous donation of our account from Slack. They also showed up and helped us with that. And what we would do is we just let people know if they were interested, they could come to our Slack channel, and we would start to talk to them about what they wanted to do, how much time they had, what their level of technical expertise was, and what they felt comfortable with. And it was different for a lot of people. We got other coders, we got other people that worked in GIS, we got people that had used Fulcrum or Tableau or some of these other tools. And then we also got people that, they were just like, I can send an email, I can scrape Twitter, I can look for updates on if this shelter is closed or not, or what's going on. So there really was a place for everybody. Let's see.
And as a front-end developer, how did you get involved in mapping? I know you had some personal interests even before this project.
I was really interested in, a lot of my background is things like maybe other developers here might know. I love D3. I love these other tools that are making graphs and data and abstract, kind of concepts very pretty for the public. And my background, is in museums and education and making things, kind of digestible to the public. But there really is something about a map that makes it very tangible, that makes it very relatable to people. And it's not just data abstracted, it's an actual place and an actual thing happening in real time in this place. And I began to get involved in a lot of mapping efforts through Humanitarian OpenStreetMap. I was a part of Google's Geo for Good cohort last year in 2016, and I just started to get involved in a lot of citizen mapping projects in the area, both for work and as a volunteer. I worked for the California Academy of Sciences for a number of years, and we had the iNaturalist app, which was you just take your phone outside and you find out about birds and other species and things, that are in your area. And again, grew to be a very large crowdsourcing effort in this way. So I had been a part of all these projects in some way, and I felt like learned quite a few things participating in other ways with these other projects that we definitely did apply to the Harvey map.
And as you think about kind of crowdsourcing, right? Crowdsourcing projects such as this, what are some advice that you may have for others who may want to take a lead and do a project like this one?
I would say, there's a lot that you're not going to know, and especially with rapid scale efforts like this, disaster management, storms, other things like this that might be, you might not have the lead time, and you might not have time to prototype, and you might not have time to go through best practices and things like that, but really, you just kind of jump in, and the thing really sort of drives itself. And people do self-organize in a way that was really extraordinary to see. And I think that you need to moderate. I think that you need to delegate, definitely. I hand mapped the first 200 sites on the map before we started to get more volunteers. And you can't do it all alone. And even if you built it and understand it forwards and backwards, you cannot do it alone. It's a group effort. And so learning to delegate very quickly for training others to train others became important very quickly. And I think understanding that even when it moves quickly, you can still just kind of let the thing go and put the tools in people's hands and give them what they need to succeed with it.
We all have very busy lives, obviously, and you took the time out to actually do this, and did an outreach via Twitter, and really got a lot of volunteers involved and had massive impact. What would your advice be? All of us have very busy schedules, and obviously we see things that are happening in the world. We'd love to kind of have you maybe share your inspiration for how you just woke up and decided that this was going to be a project you're going to take on, because it's not a trivial task.
It really is one of those things that, and I genuinely and truly woke up Friday morning thinking, I'll just donate a couple hours, I'll just do what I can with my time. And had I known it was going to turn into this giant thing that was going to take up, day and night for 2 weeks and, things like that, I never imagined. But that same conviction was still there to say, what, I'll just show up and I'll do what I can. And at the moment, I thought do what I can would mean a couple hours. And what that turned into was, once we got the backing and the thing really just started to roll, do what I can turned into, quite a longer thing. But, the bottom line being everybody has something they can do, and everybody has some part that they can pitch in with these kind of projects. And you don't have to be, a genius coder or, really tech savvy or even done anything like this before. You can just show up, and there are more and more projects like this all the time.
Fantastic. Well, Jessica, thank you very much, obviously, for your personal leadership here and making such a tremendous impact. It all started with one person, and your idea obviously spread throughout the region and really spurred other projects that have ultimately, benefited thousands of people. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.